Yep.
I have a gear to grind.
Grind it.
This
I mean,
Thursday.
don't
Grind
fall.
it. Grind it.
You just start me up, and it's a gray we've gone before, but I'm gonna say it again because I think it's one of the most ridiculous things to do, and the
Grind.
self-hatred that breeds from it is disgusting. Why are we policing our black children here in schools? Why are we asking black children to continue hating themselves and the hair that grows out of their scalp by telling them they can't show up with this hairstyle, that hairstyle, they can't have to be this. Like,
because because their excuses, they're preparing them for the real corporate world.
no,
And the real
what's
world.
happening is in the past, students were able to wear, especially boys, they were able to come to school, and girls come to school with afros,
Okay,
which is the way our hair grows.
stick up in
But
right
for
there.
some
Stick up in right there, Kevin.
Okay, I'll try.
Yes, because what Kevin said struck a nerve. It's so funny. I was thinking about this on the drive here with Jade, because when she jumped into the vehicle this morning, like my Afro pick fell. It was on the seat and it fell down, right? And she was like, "What you get?" Oh, right.
I was like, well, you have an Afro pick.
And so that took me
To
back
scratch.
to that took
would
me,
be a good reason. You know?
That took me back to like my high school days, where my hair was always a big problem. I would get sent home regularly because of my hair. And I remember one time my Afro pick being called a weapon.
Interesting.
Yeah, saying I'm coming to school with a weapon.
For me, while I can see why it was branded a weapon at some point, are you not happy that children, especially males, are keeping their hair kempt during school?
Like
It's an
this
afro.
seems-
Honestly, something cannot, you touch it, it get a dent. Are you not happy that the child is concerned with their appearance, which is the whole purpose of uniforms and things? Like, why are you like?
Right.
What do you really want? I think is the question that we ask. What is the purpose of? I think we don't need to ask about policing the hairs. Is more of the, I think the real question is, what do you really want?
Right.
And this is for the organization. What do you want?
But
And in that being said, what do you want this to do? What does this do? By asking boys to cut their hair off, what does that do for you? What does that do for the child? What does that do? Like, what? Why?
this
what
is
it?
and this is the thing, Kevin. I was responding directly to what you said about the past. One of the times when one of the many times that I ended up in the principal's office, and I wasn't a particularly troublesome child. As a matter of fact, big up Miss Cable one time. Like, we have a really good relationship, even though. But one time I was just speaking to Miss Cable, and she was actually getting on me about my hair, as usual, which was one of the main reasons I would have to go see her. And she pointed to a picture that was hung. I think it was a photo of a graduating class from the 70s. And she goes, "You see, this is when it was principals, not men." And every single male student in the picture was wearing an afro, and every single female student was wearing a mini skirt and knee-high socks.
Ooh.
Every single one had on what would be akin to a netball skirt now. and I couldn't understand what was I was looking at her and I was like, do you understand what's happening right now? Like, I'm in here because I have an afro, and you're pointing to a picture with
Many Afros.
with many afros and telling me that's when it was principals, not men.
Listen, I would never understand this here debacle, because your hair doesn't stop you from learning. Like, it's not like your hair is a hindrance. Are we not going to school to learn? Are we
No.
Yeah, I just.
No.
What do you mean no?
No.
We,
We're
we,
going to school to learn.
honestly,
No.
we don't go to
That's
school.
what they tell
We
me.
don't go to
No,
school
they
to
don't.
learn. What we go to
What?
school, we don't go to school for learn. What we do is teacher. Let me
You
rephrase.
said it a while ago. They tell you they're preparing
the
you.
the system is just a factory process. A conveyor belt of life.
I'll tell you something.
Preparing you to become another statue in the community.
School as we know it, public school as we know it, came at the turn of the century, the same time with the Industrial Revolution. And so there needed to be an apparatus to be able to prepare workers to be able to join the new industrialization that was happening in the economy. That's what public school as we know it. That's why we have public schools. Like and until
actually teaching us real world skills.
Until we look, how is it that I'm coming out of school? Some people not some people, a lot of people, they have no idea of proper budgeting, saving.
Just about money management.
Well, financial, what is it that I'm coming out of school and I don't know how to invest in the stock market?
Things that we actually need, We don't have money management skills. We don't have, some people come out of school and don't even know about sex education and all these things. Real world instances.
I just can't. The way these policies teach children to hate themselves is ridiculous. Beyond the whole system, the whole preparing you for life thing. Students come to school with their hairs in whatever way they can wear them, especially young children. And they are being told so many negative things. Oh, your hair can't fit in one. Or your hair can't. Leave the children alone. And please, stop projecting your own self-hate on these children. You're literally teaching them to hate themselves and they don't even know as yet. And then you're giving them all of these false ideals that you don't even feel comfortable with. Why are we teaching our children that, the hair that grows out of your head is bad? Why?
That actually it's more than schools, because even parents, one time I was walking to the square and I was not listening, but I overheard a conversation about a fresh out the womb baby and their hair, and they don't have good hair, they don't have their either mother's side of the family's hair or the father's side, and I'm like, this is
fresh out the coach.
This is what you're concerned with? This is literally what you're concerned with right now. What is good here? All here is good here. Stop with this stupid ideology of good hair versus bad hair, because some people's hair straight or curly or kink. There's no such thing as good hair or bad hair. Your hair is your hair.
All hair is good hair. And I think that when we
take care of it, it is good hair.
Yeah, I think when we really need to start teach, and even if your hair is not taken care of, you can make suggestions and recommend things and say nasty things about it. Because how about, for me personally, I remember in Bastia as a student, I never kept an afro really, sometimes, but it never got long enough for them to complain about it. And my hair was so unhealthy because I knew nothing about hair and hair care, because as a man you sort of just thought that you brush your hair and go, or you just rub a bar of soap on it, which is so bad.
Terrible.
ever since I've stopped doing that, which is probably the last 10ish years, I've learned how my hair actually is, and I've learned how to make it make sense.
But because look at it, what you're saying, Kevin, is so true. Even that kind of stuff, the self-care, even physical self-care is something that we don't learn. Most people start figuring out the best hygiene routines, the best things for the hair and the skin when they're in the 20s.
Literally.
When they're in the 20s.
When you're grown up. So again, what? Anyway, maths.
Yeah, but I mean, and it filters down in so many different ways. I sometimes cringe when my female friends subconsciously give off certain hints and signals to the female to the daughters, and sometimes it goes I don't want to say anything, because it is such a touchy topic for most people when you start talking about not only their appearance and the things they do in terms of how they present themselves and how they project beauty, but also how they raise the kids. So that's a very touchy big place there. But I mean, now I see a lot of women who they go natural. They say go natural, which is funny to me, because how do you go natural? Yeah, but it's just that's semantics. Like that's neither here nor there. So you go
But
natural.
you said it, and now it triggered me.
Yeah, so you go natural. But then this is what happens. So you go natural, maybe you grow locks, maybe you have like you wear natural hair, whatever. But then whenever there's a special occasion, an occasion that is deemed special, you cover your hair in a weave. So what happens is you're going to a cocktail in the evening. For some reason your natural hair isn't good enough for that.
Yep.
And I keep saying, like, do you understand the message that they're sending? Like, I don't know. Like,
I've been happy that I escaped that whole weave wig debacle, because since I as a child I've majority of my life had natural hair. My hair has been literal natural from the age from a born to when I went to college.
Oh, yeah, for real, me too.
Yeah, you lie.
Yeah.
Damn, I would never guessed. And then when I went to college, and you're right, because I did the same thing when I was going to graduate from college. I straightened my hair
Because
for
of graduation. Like, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Is.
It's a
and
thing.
then, like, later I regretted it. Like, one day I was like, why did I even do this to be here? And I just cut off all. And then it go back, because it grows, it's here. And then I just decided, you know what, I always wanted locks, and now I have locks. But I see what you mean with people who constantly think that you have to cover your natural hair, cover your hair, because
it's not good enough.
It's
for
a
certain,
special occasion.
Yeah, it's not good enough for some occasion.
Yeah, we have to get away from that.
Yeah, but hey guys, we have a call on the line. Caller, good morning. You're live at Island Tea. What's up?
Hi, good morning. Again, another interesting topic. I went through the same thing going through high school. And, at that point in time, I even questioning, is the hair giving me strength to learn, or it diminishes my ability to learn and that kind of thing? But you asked a pointed question there earlier. And you asked, what do we want? And the answer, I really don't know, but how do you say that, who sets the standards? What is acceptable? What is not? What is quorum, decorum, or whatever? The point is, I could recall somewhat of an uproar in certain circles when the Honorable Sean Richards appeared in our assembly with quote-unquote punk rock style haircut.
Oh, the mohawk.
The mohawk, yeah. And I don't know if it was considered natural. It was maybe a sign of times where he wanted to, let's say, I don't want to use the word belong, but associate with that style with other people who wear it. But then what do you say to students who come in with a hairstyle that, let's say, is the same punk rock, and those people in the States, they have these high sticking out thing, whatever they put in it, it causes it to stick out like spikes and so on. So my question really is, to echo your question, what do you really want? What is acceptable? What is not? I don't have the thing. I know standards are standards, but who sets them? Who approves them? And where do we cross the line with, say, we rebel against the system by wearing locks, for instance, or these kind of new hairstyles? I don't know, but it's an interesting conversation, as usual. All right.
All right, caller, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that it's interesting that we're in a space now where if you were to talk to any human resource manager, for instance, any life planner, life coach, that kind of thing, and you ask them about the importance in this economy of having innovative thinkers, having people who think outside the box, people who are expressive, people who take initiative, people who refuse to conform, they see that as a positive. Recognizing now that we're in a place where there are so many self-made millionaires, so many self-made people who are for the first time in their family's history finally financially independent and able to generate wealth that could then be passed on to the next generation. And the way they're doing this, a lot of the times, are in the fields of media and in the field of technology. Both fields where you stand out based on innovative thinking. And yet we have school systems that kill creativity and individualism.
From
Kill
early.
creativity. And you know what's crazy to me is that it's encouraged and then stripped away in a way that makes it seems punishable. So, you know, children are taught to draw, go and play. You have dolls and, you know, trucks, and go play. And you play and you sit there and you let your imagination run wild. And then at some point in the educational system, you hit a certain point where if you try to exercise that creativity, it seems foolish, and, you know, don't bring them things here. It's time to learn. Learning involves creativity. And the reason why we have all of these amazing math formulas and amazing technology and all these things is because somebody was creative enough and given the creative freedom, not even given, because some of it was taken. They took back their creative freedom to be able to give us the products that we have. So, like, why are we forcing kids to become grey blobs instead of creative beings?
And if we are trying to prepare them for the economy as is, and as the economy as we see it moving, then it would behoove us to encourage that sort of thinking, because the economy as it stands now rewards that type of thinking. So if you want to tell me we're preparing children for the economy and the job market and all these things as is, then these are the things we need to be encouraging.
Mm-hmm. And it's not
because to be honest, right now we're preparing lemmings.
And it's really not just the school; it's the whole of society. Like your household, the churches, the schools. Like, what you can't want both. Like, you can't want us to conform and then tell us to be individuals and, you know, be ourselves and all of these things, because you're telling us ourselves aren't good enough. How we present isn't good enough. We need to change this and fix this and act a certain way when you're outside, because this is how society expects you to act. Like, what is...
You know, and somebody brought up a great point, you know, and they said that it's unfair to say the educational system gives the negative image of persons, which is true, because the person is also saying it starts at home, but the thing is the educational system adds to it and reinforces it. So yes, some of it starts at home, but we also have to remember that children spend the majority of their days in school.
But not only that, Kevin, but in cases we've had several instances right here in St Kitts where parents have a different view to what's being perpetuated in school. And you're told that, well, just take your child out of school.
Imagine.
Yeah, you know.
Imagine telling me my child can't learn.
If you want your child to have the hair that is on their head growing the way that
the solution is take them out of school.
Remove your child from education. We will no longer grant them access to education because they have more than 4 inches of hair on their head.
And that's the thing about it. I have yet to see any school rule that clearly defines what these things are, you know. That's the funny thing. I kept asking. When I in school, I kept asking. I said, well, okay, there is a student from the hills of Caucasoid up in my class, right? Oh. And his hair longer than mine. If you were to measure his hair is longer than mine. But I'm being sent all the time to go cut me hair, to the point they're telling me come back with a receipt to show that I went to the barber. Them kind of like.
I just want to know, what does having hair prevent you from when you're into school? When you're in school, like what
it does nothing.
No,
it is another tool of
oppression.
What it was.
What is the actual reason?
The reason is that it's because when you go into a certain institution, there are rules. So it's not about just learning material information. So it's about learning to conform to rules.
But this is another colonial rule that has been passed down, and nobody takes the time out to question it, to understand why it still exists. Originally, it was meant to oppress people even further. because when black persons finally got themselves into educational systems, they had to find yet another way to inhibit their learning process.
Yeah, but Kevin,
so that's where the here problem come in.
Yeah, Kevin, we have a caller. Caller, good morning. You're live on Island T. Caller, good morning. I think we lost that caller. Caller, feel free to call back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was saying that, this is where this whole here thing came from. When black persons were finally allowed access to education, persons had to find another way to hinder their learning, and that was to nitpick the hair that they had on their head. Because what can a black person do with the hair that goes out their head?
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting about this? So, for instance, I had teachers, and I taught alongside teachers who were great teachers. Mm-hmm. Great teachers, great people. So even outside of their professional capabilities, they were great people. Some of whom had locks. So imagine you're telling me as a child, or you're telling a parent that the school will say you can't come to school with locks unless it's like for religious purpose, right? However, and that the reason for these rules is to prepare you for the world of work. However, you have somebody you're paying with the same hairstyle. So I mean, when the teacher go find work, you tell me you can't find work.
You're telling a child that their potential role model is not accessible. It's not real. That person
like,
might say, my teacher with locks, who's a geography teacher. I want to be him. I want to be a geography teacher because he's who I see myself wanting to be. You're telling that child that's a false, that physical goal is false. Mm-hmm. It's not something you could get.
Imagine that. But we have another caller. Caller, good morning. You're live on Island T. Oh, let's try. Let's try this one. Caller, good morning. You're live on Island T.
All right, good morning, gentlemen. Thank you very much for the education. I don't know if you could ever recall sitting in a classroom and seeing a teacher struggling to get control of that class because of some distraction of somebody hairstyle, somebody not dressing the same proper attire, uniform, the same as everyone else. And so you and I know that the attention span of a child is very narrow. Compared to some adults, the attention span is very small. And so the teachers do struggle sometimes to get the message across, even though they have done their work prep. And someone come in with some simple foolish thing that throw the whole thing off. So it's not so much that they want to put down your hairstyle. It's a matter of controlling the classroom, the environment of which they teach, and need to get that message across to the student. And so, to benefit. Hello.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but a quick question: do you believe that the reason that the hairstyle that you're suggesting, I don't know what type of hairstyle that would cause a teacher to not be able to teach the class, but let's say that there was one. Don't you believe that that's based on the fact that the school itself creates an expectation for what is acceptable and what's not acceptable, and so any divergence from what that is it's not that the hairstyle itself is distracting. It's only distracting given the environment that was created.
Agreed. Because
I agree, but at the same time,
if we allow students to bring, let's say for guys, if guys can now come to school with afros, and nobody had afros before, then there would no longer be this great attention paid to afros because it's normal. But if we as teachers and adults bring so much attention to the afros, the children are going to follow suit.
That's the point I'm making.
The children feed off of the energy that the teachers do.
It's only distracting because
rile up a situation.
It's only distracting because the teachers deem it as a distraction. There's nothing.
I agree with you because I remember I had an afro too. I had an afro when I was going to school, but at the same time, to me, that afro was not a big thing.
Exactly.
But it wasn't something that was looked upon, that was denied of me. But I had an afro.
Precisely.
And so to me, I think when they say uniform, where everybody should have the hair cut, then everybody just fall in line and cut the hair. But the hair will grow back, so you don't lose that because you know you have it. It's yours. But there are times when it comes that you're going to have to present yourself at a certain way. If you join the police force, if you join the military, you have to fall in line with certain things. It shouldn't take away from you because you know you have the option of going back where you came from and where you belong. And your beauty is yours. So to me, you could make something an issue, or you could just ignore it and move on. And let it become a distraction to the message of which you're sending.
You see, well, Carla, I do understand what you're saying, but I think the biggest takeaway here is that students aren't taught that there's an alternative. Students are taught that that is the way to do it and the only way that is acceptable. They are not taught that it's not appropriate here, but it can be appropriate elsewhere. And that's the biggest issue, that students are taught that the way their hair grows is wrong. And that's just honestly how it is.
I agree with you, but take today's world. If there's a job that have an opening and you walk in with a big afro and somebody walking with a haircut, and to them they present themselves before you, because number one, presentation becomes number one until you get down to the real nitty-gritty, because the person who might have the long hair might be able to do a better job than the person who has the hair groom and cut and so on. So you already assess the person by the moment you see them until you look deeper into them, further into their system, because that is our natural world. But you have that option where you can go anywhere you want to. But will it work for you? Will it work against you? Take your pick.
All right, Carla, thanks a lot for your contribution.
Have a good day, gentlemen. Thank you
Yeah,
very
man.
much.
That is ridiculous. That point is ridiculous. Are you telling people because they have long hair that their hair can't be groomed? I don't understand this. This logic right here. Like, this really pissed me off because you're not making sense to me.
You know?
You're really not.
It really
making
doesn't
sense
make
to
sense. And let me read something that somebody says here. Somebody's saying that their children go to convent school, ICCS, and they've seen from their first son being there, the teachers telling the son that he needs to cut his hair, yet there are white students in there with hair that's much longer.
That's what I keep telling you.
It is not about the length of hair. It is not about
the type of hair.
It's about the type of hair and who it's on. Because let's also make this an example. So let's say a white student has long hair, and let's say the hair is to her mid back. If a black student comes in with braids in the same style to her back, she's sent home.
They literally tell female students they can't wear braids, they can't wear protective hairstyles.
You're telling a student that they cannot wear something that assists them in being groomed. And that alone should tell you it is not about the grooming, it is not about the length, it is about the person it's on.
In the words of Paul Mooney,
it's only an issue when it's only an issue depending on who it's on. That's the problem.
In the words of Paul Mooney, when your hair is relaxed, they're relaxed.
and it seems so. I remember, I went somewhere once. During the day, and a girl came there for her birthday, and you could tell it's a birthday because it was a young girl, and she's probably maybe 13 or so, and you could tell it's a birthday because she's all glammed up and she had her hair in the bubbles and I don't know what you call them, but like twists, like those nice twists, and she had thick hair, so she had a bunch of thick twists everywhere, and an adult watched her and said, "Oh, happy birthday." She said, "Yeah, you could have straightened your hair for your birthday," and I'm just like,
listen, people used to encourage me all my life to straighten my hair. Like, they couldn't believe that I had natural hair.
Where's the part of you that says you look great? Why are you not telling the child you look great? Where's that portion? Happy birthday, I love your hair, you look great. Instead, you're going to tell the child that the lovely hairstyle you have could be better if you straighten it.
But there's this one lady, I go to this particular store here regularly, right? And there's this one lady that works at the cash register, and every time I go, she gives me these half-handed comments about, "Oh, you're such a handsome, but I don't want you for my daughter if you cut them locks there. Oh, you're such a handsome guy, but why you just wear your hair like that?" I'm like, every single time.
Listen,
the thing is with that, you're better off just not giving the compliment.
That's what I'm telling you.
Give a backhanded comment. Don't make
I just
it.
here for some nails.
Nobody asks. And you know what's funny? This starts from small because I've had people, I won't say who because of reasons, every time they see my son, they say, "Why you don't cut it here? Why you don't cut it here? Why you don't cut his hair?" And I'm not cutting his hair because you want me to cut it here because you feel like he is untidy or whatever. It's his hair. His hair is long. His mommy's hair is long. So we both have hair. You'll just have to deal with it. The only way I'll cut his hair is if it's uncomfortable for him. If it's uncomfortable for him to have his hair combed, or he doesn't like it, or it's a hassle for him, some kids like that's the only way. But don't keep asking me to cut my son's hair because you think he shouldn't have hair because you prefer to see
at least
flat.
Or give him the choice when he's old enough and says, "I don't want to do this hair thing no more," and he cuts it off, or he keeps it. It's his choice when he gets to that age.
It's people's choices.
I hate when I hear adults making backhanded comments at children, like, "Oh, your son could be so cute if he cut his hair," so you're implying that he's ugly at the moment. Like, what is the comment? What is the compliment here?
Nobody asked. And you know what's funny? Since we're talking about things that nobody asks, stop walking up to women or men and commenting on their weight. You do not know what's going on in that person's life. You don't know what they're dealing with. Stop it. You don't know what happened to that person today. And you're going to come with your remarks that nobody asks, unsolicited. And talk about, "Oh, you're gaining weight," or "Oh, you're putting back on weight," or "Oh, you could lose some weight." Like, who asked you?
Yeah, it's funny to me, right? How like commenting on someone's weight has become like an acceptable greeting. It's like,
that too, but it's also
weird.
like
it's just weird to me, yo. It's weird to me.
It's also like commenting on somebody's weight is like supposed to be a compliment. I will never forget. When I gained the weight during the lockdown, right after I saw somebody and they said, "Oh, okay, Bonnie, you put on some weight, eh?" So I wasn't offended, but I was just like, so my response to them was, "Oh, you too," and they watched me with such a face.
So it's
and they were
okay.
They watched me as if like, "How dare you?" So I said, "Oh, the issue is you get to comment on my weight, but nobody can say anything about you." I said, "Next time, please just don't make any comment at all."
Bro, let me tell you something, right? The way I've learned.
Come on, Spicy. Come on.
I wish I was like Kevon sometimes, because the amount of times, right, especially women, have walked up to me. These women are bigger than me, and have commented on my weight and how I am gaining weight and all these things. And I'm like, "Ma'am, are you trying to look in a mirror? Because you're looking at the wrong reflection here. Focus on yourself."
Like, if you think that somebody is, if you are comfortable enough or close enough with somebody and you think they're gaining weight in a way that is unhealthy for them, the way is to tell them without insulting them. And I think if you are not comfortable doing that and you want to make, if you want to make that person more aware, have a conversation with a friend of theirs and see if they could have the it's not a compliment. I don't think people understand that. It's not a compliment, it's not a greeting. Telling me you look skinny or you look fat. And then the thing is too, the sad part is sometimes they always want to tag along a reason for weight gain. "Oh, you look slim, eh? Your boyfriend done you?" Like, why do people have to lose weight because of like a traumatic experience?
You cannot.
And why do people have to gain weight if there's like, oh my gosh,
literally, right? Remember that I lost weight, right? I lost weight. People used to tell me
you get bite.
Not only that, first it was, "Oh, you're getting too big and you need to lose some weight and all these things." I lost weight. "Oh, you're getting too small. Don't lose no more." Like, what?
You can't please them.
We all want. We all want.
You can't win. Honestly, you just can't win.
Go out of my face. Do not walk up to me and comment on my weight. Do not walk up to anybody and comment on their weight. Because one of these days, somebody going to be like, "Kevon," and tell you about yourself, and now you're going to feel insecure. Leave people alone.
And then you
please.
know what? The sad part is me and Kia. Because nobody tell you to interfere with me in the first place.
Oh boy. But there's mixed messages, boy. Mixed messages.
I tell you can't please people.
That they kind of remind me of what my initial grind was. But Kevin gear took up the whole time. But it was something that needed to be ground well. So I appreciate that. But in terms of mixed signals, right? I mentioned yesterday I started talking about the entertainment industry and kind of where we at now. And there's something that's been happening that is very confusing because we're getting some mixed signals. So prior to the threat of community spread and the closure of cancellation of all the events.
Do I need to wear a mask for this segment?
No, just turn your screen to that scene.
Oh, one moment. Okay,
So, no,
sure.
So prior to that, we were having events, things were happening. I dare say that there were some people who took advantage of the fact that people, especially after the year that we've had, would want things to do, would want to go places, would want to be involved in, in some type of stress relief.
Yes.
Now, prior to that, there was an announcement made that they were going to be cracking down on promoters who did not or were not up to date with their with inland revenue and their taxes. Now, I thought the timing, and we spoke about it here, I thought the timing was ridiculous. But it is what it is. That's what was said. If you're not up to date with inland revenue and thing, then you're not getting your permit and blah 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 blah. I had a big problem with that. But at the time, there were several promoters who I know had the meetings with inland revenue, and inland revenue in most cases worked with them. Some of them got a payment plan where they could get up to date over time and stuff like that, to allow them when we started allowing events again to start playing the trade again. So tell me why. Oh, and before I even go down that road, that's why it is exactly happening. Bear in mind that yesterday I spoke about the fact that when we're having conversations in regards to relief for the entertainment industry, which is in a very unique position because of the nature of the events and the situation that we're in. You know, we're being asked, like I said yesterday, to at first to limit the amount of people, which would limit the amount of revenue and stuff like that. But now it's at a point where, you know, there's no promise being given for those types of events and thing, and we understand why that is and thing. But then when we're talking about, well, perhaps there needs to be some consideration for relief. You know, one of the issues is by people ain't registering. It's hard to tell what the real industry looks like, what the losses are, who should be eligible, because a lot of people in the entertainment industry have not been doing what they should have been doing, which was, you know, register the business, XYZ. Okay, fine. Yeah. So tell me why.
Sorry.
Tell me why it is now that people could go make their application to host events, no consideration being given for whether or not they even have a license. If they're up to date with inland revenue, all the things that they say. So my question is now, again, this is mixed signals. What you want? You're gonna tell me, well, I want to stop a man from making a food and all them kind of things there. So my question is, well, why should anybody register then? And not just in entertainment, any business. Because this isn't something that is unique to entertainment, you know.
It is not.
There's people who are playing trades, no compliance in terms of joining the tax system, registering a business, paying the fees, any of these things. And then there's people who try to do what is termed the right thing, and they get punished for it.
You lose. You lose.
And the thing that upsets me even more is that when there are people who are allowed to enter these spaces and they do nonsense, everybody got to pay for the nonsense that they do.
Yep.
So we're at a point where we saw limitations being put on promoters based on the actions of people who join parties who ain't a promoter.
Yep.
And I now got this, and not only that, I'm here now waiting for the quarter to come, and if I don't upload my taxes, well, you got to pay your late fee, your interest, all these things here.
Mm-hmm.
While the people who don't mess up the whole thing, running scot-free. So the question I got to ask now is, well, why? Why should anybody register? It's just a cost on you.
Fair question.
Imagine you registered. You're trying to feed your family. You're trying to do whatever. You're trying to do all these things. And then now you're the one who registered. So they're looking for, okay, he up to date with Social Security. He up to date with Inland Revenue. And you do what? This is how you're trying to get to the point where you could actually pay in the money to Inland Revenue and Social Security. But then you got people who ain't registered at all, and it's like, more power to you, man. Go make some money.
Yeah, man. Go make some money. Once the powers that be approve you, because
But that's what I'm saying. Them is what proven.
the
That's the
people
problem.
just to
The same people who come and tell us where we get registered. Don't come tell me the shipping is about, oh, a man want to make a food. Like, that is the whole problem. You have people entering into certain industries, entertainment or otherwise, as a way to try and just make a quick dollar. And the effects that they have in the industry a lot of time are detrimental because they have no long-term dependence on the success of the industry.
They don't put you in this work. They just wake up and, you know what? I'm going to a bash.
Bye bye.
I don't have no kind of experience. I don't care about the money, all these things. I can just come in to a cheap little bash. Let me get some permission from the people I'm supposed to get permission with. I don't need to give them the documents because, me really doing this for real. I just trying a thing. They're going to give you permission. You try a thing, event turn into something that causes us to now have to suffer. The people who actually paying taxes, the people who actually doing this as a job, who depend on this day to day, we now have to suffer because this let me try a thing person who ain't care about the industry did something and nothing.
How much people selling food and ain't got a food handlers permit?
I can't walk on 4th Street,
Okay.
so I don't know. I have to walk in the road when I'm walking up 4th Street.
If I'm not a registered food vendor, does the health department come and check my cart?
Why?
Nope.
You ain't registered.
Why would they do that?
And the things that these people do can have serious negative implications on the industry. So you there now trying to do what you're supposed to do, trying to be compliant, and these things are allowed to just happen. So my question again is, why should anybody comply?
Yep.
If not only these things are allowed to happen, but really and truly it's encouraged. And then turn around and tell me that by how we can decide who to get relief because nobody registered. But are you creating an environment where it only makes business sense to not register?
Honestly.
How are you
People,
going
and the
to
thing
build
is,
an industry
the
like
big thing is, people are not registering is because when you have to look at the bigger picture, there's no need to get registered because people are not getting, there's no consequence to not being not registered.
No, it's a liability. It's a liability. It's just more money coming in your pocket and more hindrance and more paperwork.
You're taking away
more time, everything. You're not gaining anything
this month.
Yeah, but we have a call. Carlo, good morning. You're live on LNT.
Good morning.
Morning.
I know it's generally the nature of things for youth to be rebellious. But just remember that the system, and system with a capital S, in education, parental, societal rules, etc., with all its supposed flaws and contradictions, it still generated the Zuckerbergs and the Einsteins and the Jobs, And so I tend to fall on the side of no other caller about the distractions, right? That's why we have, for instance, uniforms.
But
schools.
funny you use them two examples, Abai. One high school dropout and one member was here still in the world.
Imagine that. Thank you for proving our point now.
Most people regard them, as being either geniuses or they produce a lot of good. Put it that way.
Yeah, man, but they buck the system.
They produce bad.
They buck the system, though. They were definitely people who went against the same system. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Even though they benefited from it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's about. I don't think it's about going against the system. I think it's about contributing in a way to help the system evolve. Anything that doesn't evolve dies. And so if we don't want the system to die, we have to continually push it to evolve and grow.
True, but at the same time, just like water finds its own level, there has to be some kind of standards. If you buck the system too much, there's a backlash, okay? And if anything goes, well, everything goes. I mean, do we really want, one student expressing individuality is fine.
It's not actually.
We want 30 students to be doing it.
Yes.
That's going to lead to chaos and anarchy.
No.
Why would it lead to chaos and anarchy?
No, but
children
no.
expressing.
I think we're saying the same thing, sir. I think what you're speaking about is lack of rules, lack of standards, and what that could lead to. I don't think anybody here is saying that. What we're saying is that we should continually adapt what those standards and rules are, based especially on what society and the direction is going in. That's why I use the example of the things that are now seeing success. You spoke about Zuckerberg. He because of his innovative thinking and technological know-how. So he took the things that he learned in some traditional schooling and that kind of thing, and added his own innovation to it, and produced something that is now making him and his family, wealthy. So I don't think it's about. Nobody's advocating for doing away with what is there. What we are saying is that there's ways that it must improve in order for society itself to continue to evolve in a way that we, as society, wanted to see it evolving in. If we want people with high self-worth, people who look at themselves with pride, then we need to understand that there are some things that are remnants of things like colonialism that need to go.
Yeah, but don't you think that the best and the brightest always bubble to the top? It's hard to...
No, have you been to the subway?
No.
Have you been to a subway?
No.
There's some of the best musicians playing in the subway.
The best, and it all boils down to opportunities and the moment and everything, because not because you are the richest means that you are the best. Not because you are currently the brightest man on the earth means that you actually are, because it could just mean that the person that's much smarter than you does not have access to resources to prove themselves. It's such a situation, and I think that we need to really focus on the fact that people need opportunities, and if the opportunity playing field is not equal, then for example, you can't, if you have let's say the US and Jamaica are a good example. Jamaica has some serious athletes. People are flipping on grass and doing tumbling techniques out of this world. But the US has the facilities to train children from young to become Olympic athletes, But the thing is, the Jamaicans don't have the same opportunities as them, so you can't say that America has the best Olympians. Yes, they excel because they have the tools to do so. But you can't say that the others, that they don't exist elsewhere, because those that do exist elsewhere don't have the opportunities and the tools to excel and to train.
Well, that's life generally, right? The point is, I mean, we have to be careful how we define success, as you pointed out. It's not about the richest and the brightest and that sort of thing, right? But at the same time, we have to be careful that in trying to uplift everybody else, we don't lower standards. I think that was what was behind, for instance, the whole argument about streaming in classes and that sort of thing, right? So there has to be some balance, and I agree that these standards should evolve.
Okay, and bear in mind though that things can evolve for the worse, not always the better. Okay, and so these are things that people have to look at, and as to who sets the standard, that's a whole new argument. But while let me just say from yesterday's argument, because that ties into the whole idea of discipline and uniformity. I share, I think it was Azim's outrage in respect of the interaction of the army with ordinary citizens and the blurring of the role of the army with that of the police. Right? Police are trained in law enforcement, and generally their tools reflect that. Armies, on the other hand, are trained to kill, to maximize force, and their weapons reflect that. You know, you don't use a shovel to do a job that requires a bulldozer, right? And armies are there for the defense of the country usually against external threats. Of course, they come in handy in times of emergencies like hurricanes and so on. But have you ever really stopped to think that an army is one of the few entities that justifies its existence by the fact that other armies exist? You know?
Yeah, I tell you to talk about that.
Yeah, you know, and as you, I think it was you pointed out too, there is really a power dynamic, right? And those vested with power and authority must also be responsible and accountable. Okay, there was a time, for instance, at the height of the crime crisis, when there was the perception that the army was more effective than the police. And I think the size of the guns contributed to that perception. You know, and, you know, it was, I guess, part of psychological tactics against the criminals, okay, because it suggested overwhelming force, all right? I mean, you have M16s coming up against pistols. And the public, and that is where I think the problem came, the public was generally comfortable with that, you know? And once you get a level of comfort with that show of force, it becomes, well, what you're making noise about. That's what they're there for, you know? But I don't think that's what an army or people with M16 rifles parading through the society is there for. Okay? The army is supposed to stay in the background until there is a threat, an external threat. Okay? So I agreed with your outrage yesterday, that you expressed yesterday.
All right, man. Thank you. But guys, we're gonna take a break. I think we need a break.
I think so too.
I think we need a break.
I think we went.
Do we though?
I mean, we really did grind some gears today.
All right, so we're gonna take a small commercial break.
Before we take a break, we also need to remember that, you know, we need to really cut out this mentality that because it works for you means it's right and that it's working. Because there are persons who are on the receiving end and they don't agree. You know, rich persons are not going to complain that the system is not working because they're rich because of it. Poor persons will because they're poor because of it. So, you know, we really need to put things into perspective before we just say that, you know, because it works, leave it. It works for you, but not everybody.
Right.
Break time.